Good people, sanibonani, Mageba lo. Grade 12 number 13, we will be talking about some series with the new stuff that we'll be dealing with grade 12. Now, what is a series? Series is created by adding the terms of the sequence. That's basically a series. When you start now putting an addition sign in those terms of those sequence. Now we call it a series. Now we know this one here as a sequence. Now we're dealing with sequence from grade 10, grade 11, now we're in grade 12. We still be dealing with sequence. Now we're introducing something new, which we call it a series. Series is basically the addition of those terms in that sequence. So now this, because of these additions, I now we call it what? We call it an series. Now, addition of terms. Now, there's a new term that's going to be coming in, which we call it a sum, because we are adding the terms, which is we'll be calling it a sum. Now, sum of number of terms, which is Sn, which is the symbol that you'll be using, is equals to term number one, term number two, term number three, and so on until the last term, which is we call it Tn. Now, this series 1 plus 4 plus 9 dot 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 until the 100 term, which is 10 years 100, which is 100. Now, T1 S1 is equal to T1, which is 1 value, it's the first term. So adding that first term is basically adding 1, that term which is basically 1 in this case. Now, sum number 2, which is equals to, now we're adding those two terms. So term number 2 plus term number 1, sorry, plus term number 2, which is 1 plus 4, which basically gives us 5. And then sum of that term, which is T1 plus T2 plus T3, which is basically 1 plus 4 plus 9, which gives 14. And then term sum of the 10th term, which is sum is 10, basically term number 1 plus term number 2 plus term number 3 plus term number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on. They didn't put those terms here, which is that's why they put these three dots until till number 10, which is basically 1 plus 4 plus 9 plus all the terms that are in between here to this last term, which is 100, which gave us this 385. Now, you can't be adding like this. We need to come up with a formula that's going to allow us to do these things straight with your formula, because this is going to waste the exercise book trying to add these terms until the 100 terms, the 100, the sum of the 100 terms. So basically, we need a formula to use this. Now, that's where this formula comes in. But before we go there, now this is some of arithmetic series. So arithmetic series, remember the word arithmetic, we've dealt with that in grade 11, where we deal with this, which is this is the first term. This is the first difference of the arithmetic series or sequence. It's constant. The word arithmetic, we should be familiar with that word arithmetic, because now it's a series, meaning it's an addition of those sequences. Now here in Batigan, arithmetic series is formed by the addition of the arithmetic sequence, which I just said now. And then in this case, they're giving us 2, 6, 10 dot 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 62, which is the last term. And then the moment it becomes a series, it's where you put the addition sign, which is until the last one here, which is basically 62. That's the sum of the arithmetic. This is the arithmetic series, we call it. This is a series. Now, sum again, we are adding here. Again, adding those terms, we need a formula. Now, this formula is a formula that get derived in order for us to have this formula to use it when you're calculating the sum of the arithmetic series. Now, Sn again, it's just the sum of the nth term. N, it's a number of terms. A, it's the first term of your series. And then D, again, is a constant difference. Now, you need to know how to derive this formula. You need to know how to derive this formula. And I beg you, I did make a video about this formula in terms of how do we derive it. Make sure you go and watch that video. It's very important. I will try to put the link below so that you could go and click there. So make sure you watch this video. Again, another way of writing this formula, take this d next here, which is basically Sn is equals to n over 2a plus d into n minus 1. I usually use this one because it doesn't get confusing me with this d when I need to multiply here. So that is very important. But it's up to you. Either use this one or this one, doesn't matter. Now, this is a way how to derive the formula. Again, I told you I already have a video in terms of how do we do this formula. So make sure you go and watch that video. Again, that's the process that I'm dealing with here. So yeah. Now let's come to this one where now it's a question in terms of we need to apply the formula that we were talking about. Calculate the sum of the arithmetic series 3 plus 7 plus 11 plus until to 30 terms. Now the equation in terms of calculating the sum, ETSN is equals to UN over 2 and then 2 plus UD into n minus 1. That's the formula. Now, in this formula, again, we need to know how many terms do we have in terms of the sum that we need to calculate. In this case, they told us that is 30. And then we need to know the value of A. In this case, the value of A is what? It's 3. And then we need to know the difference. In this case, the difference in terms of 7 minus 3 is going to be 4. That's going to be our first difference, which is a constant difference. Then we go straight and calculate the sum of the 30 terms is equals to 30 over 2 and then 2 into 3 plus d into 4 and then my n is 30 minus 1 and then 30 over 2 and 2 into 3 and then plus 4 and then 30 minus 1. And then I get an answer of 1830. Simple and straightforward, calculating the sum. Now let's come to this one. Now this one, there's a formula that you see here. We use this formula if you know the last term. If you don't know the last term, you go back and use the normal formula. Again, even if you do know the last term and you don't want to use the formula, you want to use the normal formula, it's also still fine. Again, I will use this formula here and also the other one in order for you to show you that both of the answers are going to be the same and it's up to you which one you know. But basically, this one, you use it when you have the last term. This L basically stands for a last term. Now let's come back to this one. Consider the arithmetic series -1, -3 over 2, -2, minus dot dot into the last term, which is -16. Basically, determine the number of terms in this series. Number of terms, meaning we need to look for n in this series. What type of a series is this? It's an arithmetic series. Now, how do you find the formula of an arithmetic? Now, arithmetic, it's Tn is equals to A plus D into n minus 1. And then I know this because this is my last term. We call it what? A Tn. Now, Tn is going to be -16 is equals to the value of A is going to be -1. Now, finding the difference. Now, this is very important here because it is easy to make a mistake. You're going to say -3 over 2 minus into -1. And then we get an answer here of -1 over 2. And then we come back to this one here. We say plus into -1 over 2 and then n minus 1. And then -16 is equals to -1. We times this with this negative, so it's -1 over 2 n and then plus 1 over 2. And then -16 is equals to -1 over 2. Then I'm going to say -1 plus 1 over 2 which basically give us a negative 1 over 2. Then we take this to a 1 over 2 to the other side, so it's basically going to be negative 16 plus 1 over 2, which is going to give us a negative 31 over 2 is equals to negative 1 over 2. And then we divide by 1 over 2 both sides, and then we're going to get an answer of n is equals to 31. Now, how many terms do we have in this series? We have 31 terms because in term Yorklina, which is this negative 16, it's the 31st term. So the terms that we have in this series are 31 terms. Now, calculate the sum of this series. Sum of this series, we're going to use the last term that we know, which is the 31 term. Now, coming to this one, we know that we need to calculate the sum of the 31st term. So, sum of 31 is equals to 31 over 2 into, if the first term here it is what? It's negative 1, so negative 1 plus this last term. What is our last term? It's negative 16. So negative 16. And then is equals to. Then we're going to say 31 over 2 into negative 1 plus negative 16. And then we get an answer of negative 527 over 2. Now let's go back and use the normal one that we know. Let's see that is it going to give us the same answer or no? So sum of the 31st is equals to 31 over 2, and then 2 in my first term is negative 1, and then plus my negative 1 over 2 into 31 minus 1. And then shall I calculate Tayako from there? It's going to be 31 over 2, and then 2 into minus 1 plus into negative 1 over 2, and then 31 minus 1. And then when I punch my calculator, I get exactly the same answer. Now, it's up to you. I prefer that you use this one because obviously you're going to forget this one. The normal one the way that we've got to be using until we've been using this, we're going to use this and so on. So obviously I just prefer that just use this one because this is the formula that's going to be popular compared to this one. Now, how many terms of the arithmetic series 8, 13, and 11 will add up? Now the very important term is this one, will add up. When they say add up, what is the one term that we use when you use the word add? Add, sum. Sum, meaning how many terms, n. Again, we're looking for n in this arithmetic series. When we add up, sum to this, meaning sum is going to be this, will add up. That's the very important term here. Sum, add up to. So basically Sn is going to be n over 2, a plus d into n minus 1. And then my Sn is 1700 is equals to, again, I'm looking for n because there's how many terms. So n over 2, and then 2 into a is 8, and then plus d is 13 minus 8, which is 5, and then n minus 1 because we're looking for n. And then from here, it's up to you which one do you want to do. Do you want to do a cross multiplication with just these 2 times this? Or another way of doing this in order for you to understand basic what is happening. You don't have to show this step, but for now we'll show it. We times this by 2, and then we times this by 2. These 2 cancels these 2. And then these 2 are going to times this, and then you're going to have 2 times 1700, which gives us 3400 is equals to, and then the n comes back this, because these 2 cancels that 2, and then we're going to have 2 times 8, which is give us to 16, and then times this here. So it's going to give us 5n minus 5, and 3,400. Then n is equals to 5n, while 16 minus 5. 16 minus 5 is basically 11. And then we're going to open the brackets there with that n. It's going to give us 5n squared plus 11n. Take this to the other side. 0 is equals to 5n squared plus 11n minus 3,400. Everyone now see what is happening here. Quadratic formula. So n is equals to negative into 11 plus or minus square root of 11 squared minus 4a. My a is 5, and then my c is negative 3,400, and then all over 2 a, and then my a is 5, and then you punch this in your calculator. So it's negative into 11, and then plus square root of 11 squared minus 4, and then negative 3,400, and then all over 2a, which is 5. And then I get the n of 25, or I get another n of negative 136 over 5. Again, we can't have the number of terms that are negative, so we cancels this. And then how many terms are there in this arithmetic series that would add up to this? Those are the 25 terms. Hopefully, we are still on the same page there. Now, let's come to this one. Now, before we even go any further here, I need to give you this disclaimer that here, when we calculate these values of n, we're going to start by getting the answers that are in decimal form. And then from getting those answers that are in decimal form, we'll take it from there. Just want to give the disclaimer so that people, they don't get confused or they get surprised when they get decimal answers. And then I'm going to explain there, when you get the decimal answers, how do we deal with those decimal answers. Now here, Bati, consider the arithmetic series. And then this arithmetic series is negative 4 minus 1 plus 2, and so on. Then Basibati, calculate the smallest value of n for which Sn, the sum, will be greater than 300. Now, these are inequality signs. Inequality signs. Most of us get confused in terms of using the inequality signs. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say Sn is equals to n over 2 into 2a plus d into n minus 1. And then we're going to calculate the value of n, because obviously calculate the smallest value of n. Now, we're not going to use the inequality sign. We're going to use an equal sign as I've written it here. That is very important. Now, let's do it. I'm going to put in a value of Sn needs to be greater than 300. So a value of Sn is going to be what? It's going to be 300. And then is equals to n over 2. And then 2, what is my value of a? It's negative 4. And then plus, what is my difference? Again, difference is going to be negative 1 minus into minus 4. Guys, very, very important. So minus 1 minus into minus 4, which is give us a positive 3. So my d is going to be 3 into n minus 1. Again, cross multiplication with these 2, or you times by 2 there. So 300 times 2, we are getting 600 is equals to n into times this 2 times negative 4. I'm getting a negative 8. And then timesing this, basically it's going to be negative, not negative, positive 3n, and then minus 3. And then 600 is equals to or n into 3n, and then negative 8 minus 3 is minus 11. And then 600 times that, we're going to basically have a 3n squared minus 11n, and then 0 is equals to 3n squared minus 11n minus 600, and then from here go straight to quadratic formula. So my n is equals to negative into negative 11 plus or minus square root of minus 11 squared minus 4a, which is 3, and then c is 600 all over 2 into 3. And then you punch this in your calculator, so it's negative into negative 11 plus into negative 11 squared minus 4a, and then negative 600, 2 into 3. I get an answer again. I told you it's going to be decimal, so n is going to be 16,09, or n is equals to, and then there is going to be negative 12,43. Now this is very important. Number of terms cannot be negative, so this one is already out. We're going to deal with this one. Now, let's go back to the question. Question is saying we need to calculate the smallest value of n, which is the sum. The n needs to be what? Needs to be greater than 300. Now, I'm going to take the 16 as a whole number because the number of terms needs to be a whole number to put it here. If it's not 16, then what is the number that is after 16? Because obviously you have comma something here, meaning it's going to be 1. It's going to be 17. We need to check, but it's either 16 or it's going to be 17. Be those two terms. Some of them needs to be, the n needs to be, when you substitute it here, needs to give us the sum that is going to be greater than what? Than 300. Now, let's do that. I'm going to write it down here. So sum of 16 for now. So 16 over 2, and then 2 into a, my a is negative 4, and then my d is 3, and then 16 minus 1. And then let's see what answer do we get. You don't have to write this thing down that I'm writing here. I'm writing it in terms of us getting the understanding in terms of what is happening. 2 into negative 4 plus 3, and then 16 minus 1. I'm getting an answer of 296. Now, let me ask you, is this sum greater than 300? No, obviously 16 now it's out. Now let's go to what? Let's go to 17. So and then the sum of 17 is equals to, we're gonna, let me not even write it again here. Let me just replace this here and put 17, and also there let's put to 17, and also there let's put to 17, because there's no mark for writing this thing here if for even checking like this, but it's very important for you to check in order for you to make a conclusion. Now let's go and change there, and then just choose 17 and see what answer do we get. I'm getting an answer of 340. Now, is this answer greater than this? Yes, it is greater than that. Then you make a conclusion from this one and say, therefore, the value of n that we're looking for that's going to be greater than this is going to be what? It's going to be 17. I hope, I hope we're in a very good understanding. Now, let's try and do number B. Let's try and do number B. Now, on number B, it's saying determine, is a more or less the same question, but now Determine the greatest number of terms that can be added together if the answer must be less than 300. The answer must be added together, added sum. That's very important. The word added basically means sum in here. So the number of terms that must be added, they must be less than 100. Now, again, we're going to use this formula. Again, we're going to use the equal sign in this case. I'm not going to rewrite the formula now. I'm just going to start from here by substituting. We are using exactly the same series. So it's going to be 100 in this case is equals to n. Again, we're looking for n over 2. And then 2. What is my 8? -4. And then what is my difference? It's 3. And then n minus 1. Cross multiplication again, it's 100 times 2, which gives us 200 is equals to and then n into minus 8 into plus 3n minus 3, and then 200 is equals to n into positive 3n, and then minus 11. And let me just jump this step here. I'm going to say 3n squared minus 11n minus 200. Hopefully you are still on the same page there. I'm jumping a step now. Then from here we go straight to quadratic. So it's going to be n is equals to negative into negative 11 plus or minus a then squared, and then minus 4 AC, which is negative 200, all over 2A, which is 3, and then n is equals to, punch that in your calculator. So it's negative into negative 11 plus, and then square root of negative 11 squared minus 4 AC, and then 2 into 3. And then again here, I get an answer of 10,20, or n is equals to an answer that is negative 6,53. Again, we cancel this. We can't have a number of terms that are negative. Now, again, we do exactly the same thing. We go back here in this formula. In a value of n, we're going to start by substituting what? Substituting 10. Now, let me do again this example here underneath. So the sum of 10 is equals to, again, if they're added, they must be less than what? 100. That's the very important thing that we are looking for. Less than 100. So 10 over 2, and then 2 into negative 4, and then plus 3, and then 10. They must be less than 100. Now let's check. 10 over 2, 2 minus 4 plus 3 into 10 minus 1. Now I'm getting 95 here. Is it 95 less than 100? Yes, it is less than 100. Now you conclude from there. You don't have to go and check the other one because this one, now let's see, it's only the answer call. So therefore, n is equals to what? Is equals to 10. You don't have to go back and check the other one. Obviously, automatically, the first one you need to check is this one. If this one doesn't give you, then you go to the other one. Now, automatically, this one is 10. So the number of terms, meaning determine the greatest number of terms that can be added if to be added if the answer must be less than 100. That's the greatest number of terms, which is going to be 10. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. MagebaMaths.